Let's go ahead and move on to the New York Mets. This is obviously Sean's favorite team as he sports them here on the podcast. New York Mets last year finished with 86 wins. Their Vegas win total was projected at 85.5. So they made money for the people that backed them on the over. Pathag says that they should have won 86. So Vegas was spot on with their win total. It's exactly where they landed. And guess what their win total is this year? 86.5. So no matter what key additions and losses that we talk about for a first-year manager and a second-year GM, it seems like Vegas got it right, and it's exactly where they landed, especially with their Pathag. Sean, you've got them right at 87. It seems like we've pretty much got these guys pegged. We can close the book on the Mets, right? Because it's all set in stone.
So I don't know if you remember, but they actually went over their win total in dramatic fashion last year. A little walk-off home run on the last day of the season.
Yes,
so some Action Network HQ members might have had a little bit of a taste of victory on the last day of the regular season there, even though the Mets didn't go to the playoffs. But
we should hang a banner in the office. Absolutely.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, we'll throw it up there next to our 100-to-1 golf futures that we've hit.
Yes.
So the Mets, the Mets are, self-defining. You say the Mets and people know generally what that emotion evokes, right? They have a very, very, very talented team on paper. On paper is the operative term there. They've always had talented teams on paper, which is why projection systems love them. Davenport has them at 93 wins. The initial Davenport projection had them at 96 wins. I was floored when I saw that. Pacoda came in at 88 wins. They have a ton of wins above replacement on their team. I'm not sure offhand where Fangraphs had them, but this is a very, very strong 26-man roster. They're fourth in bullpen wins above replacement, fourth in starter wins above replacement. They have a lot of offensive pieces. Pete Alonso, obviously chief among them, but J.D. Davis had a monster season last year. Ahmed Rosario became a league average hitter last year. Michael Conforto is still due for his best career year. Brandon Nimmo, I think, is poised for a bounce-back year. So they have all the offensive pieces in place. Added Dylan Betances to the bullpen. Filled out their rotation depth a little bit with Rick Porcello. Michael Wacha in the pen is a 6-7 starter. Eduardo Nunez, a little bit of infield depth. It's a really good team. The question is, do they stay healthy? Because they don't have much depth, which is always the case. They have virtually no 40-man depth, no outfield depth. And what does Yoenis Cespedes give them? Cespedes has said that he's going to hit 50 homers and play in 140 games. Brody Van Wegen doesn't even know if he could walk. He's having him take reps at first base because he's concerned about his ankles. So this season could go in a variety of directions. It could be yet another Mets disaster, which it's already started out with them having to replace a manager before he ever managed a major league game. Or it could be another run to the World Series like they had back against your Royals a few years ago. They have a rotation that certainly fits the bill, like the Nationals did last year, making a run through the playoffs. DeGrom has won 2 straight Cy Youngs, looking to make it 3 in a row. So the talent's there. It's, do they stay healthy? Can their medical staff not make guys more injured than they already are? And, will ownership stay out of the way and let them play?
Yeah, that 96 win projection from Davenport, that must have been a Rick Porcello Cy Young year. That must have been the best Marcus Stroman's ever been, a healthy DeGrom and Syndergaard. And Michael, I will say this, though, Michael Conforto, once he stopped being a platoon, and I know that was a problem with him, and he verbalized it a lot, that he needed to be an everyday player just for his swing and consistency. And once he was, we knew that he was going to hit bombs once they quit messing with him and benching him and making him a platoon player. So I'm really glad that he's getting full-time starts from a fantasy perspective. I don't think last year was a fluke whatsoever. I think Conforto is a great source of home runs in the league. And Pete Alonso is what a fun. Well, I mean, just absolutely. If I was a Mets fan, to have Pete Alonso on my team is just that is a cornerstone of something you always want to have. And if you get full health out of Robbie Cano, then sky's the limit in the division here. So really, I guess we're hoping for a full health here. If you're going to place a bet on the Mets, you would want to have full health with some of these guys. You'd need a lot out of Porcello as your 5th starter. Edwin Diaz needs to return to what he was in Seattle in his best years when I think it was just 2 years ago when Colin was backing him up. Dylan Betances, he needs to stay healthy. I know there was some injury problems there with the Yankees. Um, so other than
That's the
that,
thing. Like if all these guys perform as you would hope them to in a good year, this is a loaded team. It's just a question of how many injuries do they sustain.
they don't want to be Cespedes. Can you do that? Can you put a past tense on a Cespedes and call him
I'll let you do
Cespedes?
it. It
Yeah.
works. It doesn't sound awkward.
We don't. Yeah. I mean, Yoenis Cespedes he just seems to be so injury prone, whether he's diving into the turf or if he's getting out of his car when he pulls up to spring training. It seems like there's always some sort of injury. So we'll see how that turns out this year. But yeah, full health, these guys can absolutely win the division and contend. But from a win total perspective with the Mets, the projections pretty much all line up. Davenport and Pacoda are over the 86.5. But you got to have full health to get over that number. So for me, it's a no play. I think same for you, right, Sean?
Yeah, it's a no play. I've for fun as a fan of the team, I've started maybe considering taking a small shot on the Mets at 3.5 to 1 if I see it pop. Their best numbers around 325. So if I see a 350 out there, I might take it. But beyond that, yeah, no play for me.
Absolutely. If you're a fan of a team, you should take their futures no matter what the hell's going on. I mean, if you're going to go to the gas station to buy a Powerball ticket, why would you not put money on your team to win the World Series? I mean, it worked for St. Louis Blues fans last year. You never know what's going to happen, although there's absolutely no way. I can't even imagine what I would do if the Royals even made it to the playoffs, so much less win the whole thing. But yeah, there's no problem in having money on your own team, especially when they got a guy that can hit 50 bombs. That
It's interesting. As a Mets fan, I haven't really processed Pete Alonso yet. I mean, I've had a full year of him, and he hit 53 home runs last year, but it doesn't feel like he is on our team and part of the Mets. I know he exists. I know he's built into the projections, but it just doesn't feel real. It's too good to be true.
It is too good to be true. The guy just kept hitting. I thought it was going to tail. I thought he was going to pull an Eric Thames at some point and just stop hitting home runs. Or Chris Shelton, right? Remember Chris Shelton started off with 10 home runs in like his first 3 games for the Tigers one year, and then finally he cooled off. But Pete Alonso never cools off. He's always hot.
Yankees had Shaq Curtis that one year, I think, who hit like a bajillion home runs in a month. Yeah,
Yep.
there's always those guys.